gonna go live with us talking about we can't think of a gag.
Yeah, because like last time we did a cold open, we kind of planned it, but this time I think if we don't plan it, and because like we just don't have any sort of gag opening to do.
Well, I can't think of anything. Like, I can't think of anything fun.
Yeah.
Me neither. Oh, what about something with Wells, guys? What about like?
What about what?
We're gonna like name the episode something with Wells.
Yeah, I don't want to give too many wells. Orson Welles.
But what about Orson Welles? No, well.
Orson
No,
Welles,
we definitely
that's pretty
redid
good.
that. Orson Welles is pretty good, actually.
We
I mean, the spell pronunciation thing was fun.
Eldritch
Well,
Blade.
I have an idea. What if we just go like, well, what do we have here? It's Critical Reroll. And
Oh
we just
no! Go.
But I tweeted well. Like, I already did that.
Yeah, but then I added the what do we have here?
No, I literally said well.
Did you say
What do we have here?
Oh, well,
It's
you
another
tried.
Sunday.
I did not read the tweet. I just saw well. Oh man, we're so good at this, you guys.
Hi.
Are we live? Because I don't have it up on Twitch so that I can see when we're live.
Starting now.
Oh well, we tried.
Welcome-
Says
oh.
chat. Thank you.
Welcome to Critical Reroll, the podcast for the critters, by the critters. We are talking about episode 54 of Critical Role. Where it's just more stuff in... Sorry.
Okay.
And punching.
We're good.
And what else can I make them mime? I just... Ghosts, succubus, and incubi, and cats in wells. Wet cats. Crawling in the mud. Guards. Mean big ol' orcs.
You know, this is a lot of good visual humor for the people joining us live.
Yeah, the people that are listening in right now.
Well,
I'm
Abernathy
so
usually
sorry.
cuts this out.
Okay.
Cut some of it out, yeah. But yeah, so episode 54 is the one that happened. And
It is the one that happened.
It did happen, and we get to talk to Dairon.
Yeah, so we pretty much start out with them chatting about Dairon. Or chatting with Dairon about what they are doing here as the spy.
And it is confirmed
Which
she
they-
is the spy.
And they also happily, like, mention that, or I think it's Caduceus who, I put it together, guys. I think I put it together. This is one of those things.
She's the
And
bird,
Dairon
she's
was
the
like,
bird lady.
okay, well, good to know that they know I'm here. I won't be doing that anymore.
Yeah, so all in all, it's like great for both parties to... It's great that they know each other. That the one that they're looking for, like, knows them. Well, knows Bo.
Yeah, and Bo doesn't like any of, or not Bo. Dairon
Doesn't like any of
friends.
Bo's companions, yeah.
Yeah.
But she reassured Dairon, because, hey, they were pirates for a while, so clearly they're a kick-ass team.
Yeah, these guys are
And
freaking
everyone
great.
knows when we've been pirates for a couple months on your CV that people just hire you.
Oh, for sure.
That is one of
That's
those
like-
things you want on your CV.
That is one of the most transferable skill sets, you know?
Exactly. Piracy 100% flows through any job that you might have in the future.
Synonymous with, customer service, management skills.
Capitalism.
Yep.
Just steal that money.
You're hired.
Just take it.
I mean, that was
You know-
just went straight to the throat with that one.
Like a
You just-
pirate would. You're hired.
Yes!
Yes, you're cutthroat, Jess. Welcome to the business.
I know. I would be so good at doing a business. I would do
You
such
did-
a good business.
You would do such a good business. You give
Yeah.
the good business.
Did you guys think it was weird that Dairon stayed talking to them as long as she did and not try to, leave immediately after,
Well, I think
A, being compromised, B, not knowing all of these 6 other people that your protege had, brought into and, read
But
in
I
and exposed that you're an expositor, which no one's supposed to know about?
I mean, there was a lot of exposure about certain things, but I think Dairon definitely still had control over the space. I mean, they knew that they were in a space that was safe, and as long as I mean, I feel like if they had gotten a little more goofy and out of hand, Dairon would have been like, okay, Bo, I'll
Washed
talk
her
to you
hands of it.
later. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bo, I'll meet you up later somewhere, but I'm not having
these goofs.
these dingoes messing with my
Baby.
jam. I mean, my thing is, look, here's the thing, like the dingo thing, we got to find another way to associate dingoes with not just babies.
Okay.
This is
We'll work on it.
2019, and it was a long time ago.
It's 2019. Dingoes have moved on from babies. They're full adults now.
Dingoes are a multifaceted animal, and they have many interests. Okay,
It's just a fun word to say.
I know dingo is a good word to say. A
Okay.
ding dong dingo, yeah, it's a fun chain. You can chain it together. Anyway, we're talking about Critical Role. Yes, there's a silence. You're gonna have to edit out.
Yeah.
So Dairon does say that they're out here. They're planning to go to Gordranus because the Mighty Nine have mentioned Gordranus is one of their goals. I like that Dairon was also like, I told you about the Blade Garden thing so that you wouldn't follow me out here. And then she ends up following.
Well, but she's like, well, I didn't come out here
Yeah,
to
for
follow
you.
you. Like, wow, Dairon,
Yeah.
way to be so
Yeah.
self-centered. God, like, came out here to save my friend's husbando. Like, how rude. Jeez, man. Like, jeez.
Yeah.
You know? But I do like you said that they're going to like you're going to Gordranus, we're going to Gordranus, isn't that?
Maybe we should.
Oh, like hey.
But Dairon has definitely seen plane trains and automobiles and knows that it's just better to travel by yourself.
Yeah, they're definitely on the like I work alone, and I've survived this long because I've been alone. But we do get a lot of like suspicions somewhat confirmed because Dairon is in Assyrius trying to piece together connections between the Cerberus Assembly and the Kryn Empire, or at least the Luxem version part of it, on like this whole Dunamis thing and like I don't know how much Dairon knows about Dunamis, but there's definitely like a connection that she's trying to make. They were previously sending birds, but now Dairon can't do that anymore.
It's the same one, Todd. It's the same one. Cerberus Assembly. I would like to take a moment to tinfoil hat some things.
Take your moment.
The
Thank
moment
you.
is yours.
I would like to have the floor. I request the floor, please. I would like to.
I mean, you're holding the tinfoil conch shell. Go for it.
Yes. So we get with Dairon. Dairon says this line that it was something along the lines: the line never should have given them a seat of power, which I imagine is the family line of the what's his name, Dwendal, from the Empire.
Bertrand Dwendal. King
Bertrand Dwendal.
Which is such a weird like name. I don't know. It's like your power is dwindling, and that's your name. Continue.
It's the dwindling empire. We figured out Matt's empire.
Foreshadowing.
We figured out Matt's empire. We solved Critical Role.
We solved his empire puzzle.
Yeah.
We solved it.
So we have the Andalian Empire, and we know that the Cerberus Assembly is playing a very big part in all of this stuff that has to do with Xhorhas. We know they seem to be in a lot of places. There's sponsored stores from them. We know that it all kind of started with like a huge mage battle, and then they brought peace, and formed the assembly. So we don't really know like how much of that is there, but like these guys are doing some stuff. And to think that there's a connection between the Kryn and the Cerberus Assembly and what goals they have, I feel I'm gonna just tinfoil hat some things that I was thinking about. That the Kryn or the Cerberus Assembly rather probably um I don't think that the Kryn are the drows that we think the of like normal drows. You know, like the stereotypical. I feel like those drows do exist in Exandria, but the more we've learned about the Luxon, the more we've had interactions with some of these, with like Light Be With You and things like that. The way they talk, the way they haven't subjugated a whole city of monsters, because you hear about from the Dwendalian side that they're subjugation and all these like evil bad things, but like they're over here, they're occupying a city, but they're not telling people what to do. They're not holding people in chains. They're not abusing and slavery and things like that with these monstrous races, which you kind of might assume people think monstrous races are just not as equal. I think the Cerberus Assembly definitely wants the Empire, or whatever this power is, and whether they're influencing with the rumors on the Empire side. It's so good. It's like the more we learn about both sides, the more we're starting to get into this gray where we're not really like sure who this, and like we haven't really gotten to like what's the big bad of this yet. And we try to think back to the way season 1 kind of ran. We had like little big bads here and there. And you know that normally in a story there's usually like some sort of big thing, but it's like it's so fun. I don't know what you guys think about like where you think this might pop up. And
I agree with, like, I think it's very, very evident from all we've seen, like a lot of the D&D lore. And I've said this before, I'm not like long into D&D. I don't know the lore as well as other people, but I from what I understand, drow are evil because they follow Loth, who is evil, and like Loth, they were kind of put in a rough situation, so Loth helped them out. So now they're like, okay, Loth is cool. We follow Loth now, and we do the evil things that Loth, and like that's where the evilness of drow comes from. And none of the drow we've seen so far are that kind of drow. They're not like underground dark doing drow that follow Loth. They literally talk about the light anytime they've spoken about the oh gosh, what's it called? The triangle. The Luxon. Anytime they talk about the Luxon, you know what I mean? They talk about it uniting them and them all working together, and even talking to like the bugbear. They literally, like, it unites all these people, and they talk about it benefiting all of them together. And like it's not, they're not here to do bad. They're not bad people. They're not evil by any stretch of the imagination. Like, these seem like absolutely fine.
But I find it interesting
Okay.
that they are under this Luxum, and like their phrases like "light be with you," and they're drow who are literally injured by light. Like, it puts them at such a disadvantage. So like,
yeah, they still have to have the darkness follow them where they go and stuff. It's an interesting dichotomy, and it's also still like we know like way back when we got that book that first introduced us to the Kreen and their armor, and that flavor of like a love between like both sides before the Dwendalian Empire sort of absorbed whatever empire that was. But like, we know there's a war, but we really don't know what the impetus of this is, other than like Drohas is bad, they're trying to take us over. Like, what's... And it makes sense now that the Cerberus Assembly might have something to do with whatever this is, whether they motivated the Kreen to move west, or it's like we don't really talk. There hasn't really been that much from like NPCs on Matt's side or anything like that. Like, what is this war about? Is it other than that Jorhas is evil and they just want to wipe out everything, which it doesn't seem to. That doesn't seem to pan out now that we're on this side.
Anyone that's the one saying like, "Hey, we have to wipe out this entire other people," is generally not the good one.
That's true.
Like,
that's
do you know what I mean? That's generally not, like, when you're that. No matter how much you like believe in your stuff and think you're the good guy, if you're the guy going like, we have to destroy everyone that's like this / different from us, you're the bad guy. Like, you.
I also it sort of reminded me of another point in the stuff we learned from Dairon, is that Dairon talks about the Cobalt Soul as helping people who need help. The Cobalt Soul is this massive worldwide organization that puts people who can't fight for themselves and gives them give is a way for them to empower people who can't fight for themselves. And that says a lot more about everything than it does with the Empire and Jorhas and things like that, because the Cobalt Soul has their own agendas. Like, they're out here, and if they don't trust what's happening between the Cerberus Assembly and the Empire, and we don't know what the political life has been in Rexentrum, I mean, there could be a lot of stuff that is more seedy and gives us more hints about what is actually going on. Yeah. Exactly, Chinskar.
Yeah,
Conflict.
Chinskar in chat said conflict is often used as a great excuse to maintain stricter rules, propaganda, and generally control the public, which is like, kind of what we've seen from the Empire. Like, it's a lot more of what we've seen from the Empire. I don't see anyone in, the of what we've seen over in Jorhas. We haven't seen people going around demanding, allegiances from people and things of people and following strict rules of people. They seem to be allowing their people to be relatively free.
But this is also like the very beginning of a war. Like, Declaration was just announced maybe a month ago. I don't know how long.
Yeah, but
and it started with the Kryn coming over to try to get that beacon back. I think that was like the first big attack.
Yeah, controlled by the Cerberus Assembly, and we don't know how much of what happened to that tower and the destruction was actually just the Cerberus Assembly. Like, that could have all been... I mean, the Kryn were infiltrating, but the way we've seen... Yeah, I don't know if they took that with an impetus. I feel like they used that. But yeah, I mean, that was an attack, technically, but they had a thing that belonged to the... And we still really don't understand how important those things are.
True.
So,
true. I don't know. There's a lot that we don't know. We have so many pieces, but nothing to put them all.
But it opened. I mean, this episode opened up a whole bunch more questions. Not that I trusted the Cerberus Assembly that much.
What are these large war machines that Dairon heard about? Have we seen those? I don't think we've seen those.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they meant like the big beastie guys or just like actual like war machine things, or the war machine of the Kryn as like the whole.
Do you mean it like metaphorically,
industry?
like
yeah,
the machine, the machine of war, like the?
Well, I mean, that's something they said that like the Kryn, they don't have the same in terms of numbers, but this unknown magic that they possess is like.
But the unknown magic they possess is the Dunamis.
Yeah, then people on the Empire side are just learning about it.
Yeah.
So like they've had this, they've got it combat ready. They've got soldiers that can use it. That's one of like the melee ones. One of the mages was enough to take out a whole scouting party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, we sorry, but we fudge and saw those the two people, like literally the moment they entered Jorhas, the two people that were with all of those gnolls.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They took out
a whole frickin' party of like basically ranger type folk who knew Jorhas more than our group did, and almost took out our group too.
Yeah,
two people
they
with Dunamis
ran over. Like it was like a lawnmower. It just like.
So they're not. I feel like they're not exaggerating that. I feel like they have those lower numbers, but they have a real advantage with this. And then I don't know.
Yeah, it's
just like you guys are saying.
I went back and read the notes that Liam and them found, or I guess Caleb and them found when they We're looking for Yeza.
Mm-hmm.
Because before I had misheard it, and I thought that they were planning the elves that were using Giza to do the alchemy stuff, like from the assembly. I thought they were saying that they themselves were gonna go to Cordranus or Gordranus, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Gordranus.
That I misread that, so that's what I like first thought that they were connected, but like I don't think the assembly is working with the Kryn. I don't know. It doesn't. It
We
makes
don't know.
it makes
We'll
sense
see.
that they would,
Yeah, I don't know.
but the fact that, or I guess maybe there are two different like sects. Of
I
the
think
Kryn.
there's definitely different. I don't know. I think there's different elements to it, and like
Well, and we know.
Dairon voice there. They're like, oh yeah, I know of Dunamisty. Oh yeah, heckin' I know of Cerberus Assembly. I don't trust that. I don't trust that shit stuff.
Well, and that was the thing. Like they are trying to like disassemble the assembly, and
Yeah.
it's like if I can do that, then this will be a life well lived.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is it
Yeah.
going
Well,
to
so,
get
like-
down to where like what if
Yeah.
the Cobalt Soul is somehow involved, and like Dairon's given this order to go get this, and then they meet up with Mighty Nine again, but they're on opposite sides. Like what happens?
Well, yeah, and then we know that there are sections within the Cerberus Assembly that are after, like, I mean, Trent and his whole, messing around and having an army, and we know that there's not a communication necessarily between sections because he went off to do that in like a private area. So I mean, and especially if the Cerberus Assembly is like a collection of like wizards and stuff, there's a lot of different facets to like wizard magics and I feel like that's just messed up to put. Yeah, I mean it could be. So we get that whole big thing and we just don't know what's gonna happen. But Dairon definitely was told that their cover was blown and they're gonna be leaving town.
Yep. And sorry, I was
ahead.
just gonna say, were you gonna say I'm interested in like they're like, oh, maybe we can like use this and like say, put them off your trail and tell them it was someone else, and I remember like immediately thinking like that sounds really complicated, and it sounds like one bad charisma roll away from like now they're in crap and you're in crap, and now you're all in crap. You're all just in it now because you did that. But then I think Ford changed it to suggesting that, or was it? No, it was Caduceus. Caduceus was like, oh, maybe instead we can like leave, like you leave a few notes scattered around that don't give away too much info, just like a little bit of your info so they know it was you, or like a person, a spy, and then we'll lead them to here and they'll be like, look, we found the secret spot the spy had been in, and I was like, oh, that sounds much safer.
Yeah.
Let's do that one, please.
And then backtrack a little bit. I think Chinskar and Axlobo are like right on it. With, do we think?
Yeah,
the
they just
Empire
came up with good stuff.
Is still in charge of the? Do we think the Emperor is still in charge of the Empire, or do we think the Cerberus Assembly essentially took him over when they formed, or and then Axlobo or the Assembly is manipulating the crown to invade Jorhaz? I think that is it, because when we first learned about the Cerberus Assembly, kind of like becoming the what's the word? Not like Chancellor, but like. They give advice to the
advisor.
Yeah, advisors to the king or the crown.
Bizarre.
I think that was like a big red flag. Is the whoever's in charge of this place is just a figurehead, and they're running it.
Yeah, and if they have enough influence, they could have a spy on the inside, on the Kryn side too, to being like, "Hey, the Empire's been doing stuff with stuff that you think is important to your like religion," and like, I mean, it makes sense that they would play both sides because that's how you get what you want.
The assembly
get the Kryn distracted so that they can get in and find out more about this stuff.
They could have a spy anywhere because we've seen them like manipulating memories.
Yeah.
So they could have sleeper agents. Like one of the Mighty Nine could still be a sleeper agent.
Oh no! Oh boy! I
No.
just put the tinfoil hat down. No.
Okay. I'll go make my own.
So.
But they end up ending that conversation with, hey, come find me later, you're gonna learn new stuff about what you could do, Bo.
And then they decide to leave the spy game to the side for a while and figure out this abyssal thing, this abyssal problem. They sort of head back to the Four Corners They do a bit of talking. We get a really creepy goblin that gives them a little more information about POTUS. Like, oh yeah, he lived up in the north of town.
Real creep though.
People have been, mentioned. Yeah, he was. I really liked Jester just be like, no, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna tell you that. Okay, goodbye.
This isn't going on any further. Bye. I don't
Yeah.
owe you any time.
Yeah. Yep. And so then they decide that they're gonna. I think they were hinted at there's something with a well, right? Someone heard voices coming from wells. Is that what someone had given them a point of that?
It wasn't about the wells. I thought it was about they were looking at like the food is tainted, the land is tainted,
Oh,
everything is
right,
sort
right.
of like tainted and stuff like that. So my understanding is they were gonna go like literally test the water. Like let's go test the water and
Yeah,
see if it's like
I
in the
was-
water that people are like drinking.
I was so afraid that the wells were going to become another chair. Like they weren't important, and Matt's trying to get them away from it. Because I think it was just like they heard well, and that was a keyword, and so they just listened for how many times the well came up, and like, okay, it's gotta be the well.
I missed because I thought that one of the stories that they had heard was that like they heard like strange whispers coming from a well or something like that. So that might have been just me. I don't know where that brain thought came from, but that's what it came from. So they end up
Well, and to be
getting
fair,
what I really
they were on that same mind line thing.
Yeah.
Like you got it, you're there.
And we get a little bit. This is what I liked about this episode in general too. Is every time they fill me with dread about their not really hatched plans, and they just wander around a city and just be goofs and end up like. I'm just always like, okay, they're like before it was, oh, they're gonna get arrested. They're gonna get arrested. This the Empire, but now they're in Jorhas. It's like these are monsters, and these like we don't really know what the rules are here. Still, we don't know who's enforcing what, and we know that you guys can't say you're from the Empire, and they keep sometimes saying the word Empire out in like public areas.
Yeah, it was like, hey, don't draw attention to yourself, but go ahead and get pushed in the mud and then grow 2 times as tall.
Well, yeah, and they also know that like humans aren't really seen that well, and so Liam as Caleb decides to, I'm not gonna redo the spell. I'm just gonna go as a human. Rolls a really bad stealth deception thing. Matt does his little rolls a thing behind the screen. We get those 2 orcs, which I was like really worried about there. That was but I was also like, yes, give me more orcs interacting with scrawny orc, because half orc horde is a very interesting thing to orcs. But they played that one really well. I thought that I was, the minute Caleb said he's throwing iron filings and casting a spell, I was like, oh, here we go. But that was a fun artable moment too. I mean, it was just a really good just chunk. It was a really good scene.
I just thought it was weird that Ford went to like servitude. Like, no, this is my human. I own them because we're in the city of beasts, so that's a normal thing, maybe.
I feel like they were drawing off of their time in the Nine Hells when everyone just had slaves all over the place. It was like, oh, I have like 10 slaves. Just like, I feel like they were drawing from that. Right. But I think what we've seen of this society, it isn't very much like that. Like there's a bit of posturing, like we saw, like there's a bit of like, oh, I'm tougher than you, I'm a bigger monster sometimes, but like for the most part it doesn't seem to be that way. Like sometimes like sometimes you have a bunch of kobolds in a cloak being a little creepy because it's fun. Sometimes you have a big orc being like, you're a skinny orc, I'm gonna poke you, like, but I don't think it's the kind of place where a lot of people are like, I'm important, therefore I have a dozen slaves. Like
I own beings. That's just an odd.
So they get past that. They don't get killed. They don't get arrested. I feel a little better. They dig around in a first well. They do some really poor panning. Please don't throw cats in wells. They do, kind of keep checking in with Matt on like, is anyone paying attention to us? Is there anything weird going on? Ford sort of just kind of starts accosting some random people, asking questions about dreams. And we get the wonderful, these bugbears. I'm just in love with. I'm just in love with them.
I can never use bugbears in a campaign again because like I'll never be able to do them justice, and I want to use them as just like murder apes. but they're
No, they're
huggers.
yeah. And he's sort of just like, I don't know you. I'm not going to answer your questions. I'm just doing deliveries, and he
Yeah.
like goes off.
You
And
ask a
then
lot of
later,
questions. He's like, it's my job.
yeah, okay, I don't know you, and it just keeps on going with his thing. And then we end up seeing Ford gets asked to roll a perception, and he sees that bugbear just kind of peeking around a corner. Ford dashes straight for that, and we get some really good info in that this bugbear feels really guilty. He's been having some dreams about a really pretty bugbear and a really buff bugbear, and they've been coming to him and giving him really nice dreams. But then they also tell him to say things or do things. They tell him, and he feels really bad because he killed some of his neighbors' wolves, and he feels really bad, and because Ford was asking questions. I'm like, this is just so good. And it's another one of those character moments with this city of beasts where you're just like, this guy's just trying to do his thing, and these dreams don't sound right at all. But I really do want to see just like a really like voluptuous like bugbear and a really like buff bugbear. Like I just love the whole like thing. It's just so good. And so it's like, oh yeah, I live by a well. Boom. The well's not a chair. The well's a well. And oh well. Okay, that's enough, Dustin. Stop. And so he's Ford and
Umadon, yeah.
Umadon, sort of start walking. Ford kind of gives the thing like, "You guys stay back, but follow me. I think I have a lead." They don't follow stealthily that great.
Well, because Jester's busy doing her like antennas up, detect good and evil. She's like
Yeah,
boop, boop, boop,
little.
boop, 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 doing
I
little
like to
like
imagine that Jester like does that too. Like,
yes, 100%, 100%. She walks around with her fingers like up by her head, going like doop, 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 doop,
Well,
doop,
and
doop, doop,
didn't they find Umadon the second time at the second well? The first one is when they had the encounter with the Kryn guard, right? Or
no,
how
the
many
second one
wells?
is
The second
It
time
is
was
the
with the
second
Kryn
second
guard.
time. Yeah. So they get
Oh,
to the well that
She lost her earring.
yeah. So they get to that well because the first well kind of didn't pan out. They get to this well that Umadon leads them to. It's like, yeah, this is my house right here. Um, Ford has a nice like, you didn't see us, you don't know us. Umadon doesn't really get that
I
whole
felt
thing.
so bad for him. I felt so bad for him. And Matt is like describing, he's like, you're blowing his mind right now. The fact that like he wouldn't comprehend this, like, because
Yeah.
that's not.
You never talked to me, but
Do
like
something contradictory to what you say.
Yes.
in their defense, though, the bugbear was getting spoken to in their dreams, and then they killed wolves.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
poor thing.
But in this well, they do. Ford gets down there, crawls down. We do find an opening, like a little opening, and we get a sulfur sort of smell. So we know that there's definitely something going on in this well. However, they still just did get out of a fight in the Four Corners. Technically, like this is still the same day. There's a lot of people down with spells. We get them all acting weird around a well. Jester, once she finds out that there's a hole there, tries to detect magic or detect good and evil through the ground by crawling along. And then we get some bugbear families. They're like, "Hey, this is a weird. What are all these people doing
in
around
broad
this well?"
daylight. Why are they
Yeah.
crawling around in the mud? And
Which gets a guard. And then I was like, "Oh, nope, here we go. This is it. This is the day.
real
Let's
talk,
check the
though,
pool." Yeah.
see something, say something.
No, yeah. I mean, it works in fantasy and real life. See something, say something. If something just doesn't feel right, tell your local guard.
The
But
guard
they
was really nice, though. The guard
Yeah.
was like really good about it.
And Bo rolled a really good. And Jester with the improv, I found it! It's like looking
Well,
for
yeah.
something lost in the mud.
Jester
but-
did not roll a very good deception check
Yeah.
on her, like, oh, my earring, like, blah, 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 blah. I think Bo rolled really well on claiming she was not from the same place as Yasha, like, not far
Yeah.
from
Oh, yeah,
here.
that's right.
Like, we're not from here, but we're from, like, just a little bit off. Oh,
Yeah, 'cause-
yeah? Like, roll for it. Oh, you
Yeah.
really are? Okay, well, maybe you shouldn't go around here looking the way you look.
Yeah, that exchange was like
Ouch.
really strange because like they're in the city of peace, Asarius, And it's Bo, the human, who's gonna go and try to like clear things up. I was like, oh, please don't do this. And then she avoids the question. Is like, oh, the guy asks, where are you from? And she's like, oh, she found her earring by. And then
it would
gets grasped. And I'm like, no, I asked a question.
Yep.
It would be good for them to have had like maybe a little art. I mean, I know this is like the thing where I just wish Ashley gets to play more games. Because they could have had an RP moment with Ashley or with Yasha being like, yeah, so we're here. Where should we say we're from? Because like when someone asks you, hey, so where are you from? In a time of war where they're fighting people that look, mostly humans, you better have something.
Yeah.
Because if you just sit there like, I'm from. Like,
yeah, exactly. If you're like that direction.
Yeah,
like
if
you don't
from
have
here, you have an answer for that, and it would have been, like that should be a thing they should think about.
That is something that would be good for them to have an answer to.
Yeah, you should have covers while you're here, because if the monster asks you where you're from the Zorhas, you should know some landmarks.
Yeah.
But they did get out of that. They decide to take a long rest, sleep, because they're going to come back and attack this well. Because this is definitely the lead that they need. But no one is in the right mind, and they do a smart. They go back to the human stables, or not the human stables, but the people stables.
And Knott's been on edge, like kind of going back and forth, like you're gonna kill my husband. Like she said that to Jester or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Like she,
but then also
wants to find her husband, and even though it was her idea to like stay and get a favor, but I don't know. It's just
it's like she goes back and forth in between that.
Yeah,
I
that moment she had where she's like, "You're killing my husband." I mean, not really, but I'm like freaking out a little bit right now. Like that was a good that whole moment. Was sad.
That was a good internal. Like, there's something else happening here. We need.
It's like keep in mind that while this is happening, like Knot still has this internal debate, and even when they've brought it up to her, like, "Hey, Knot, if we do manage to go find your husband, you gonna tell him you're a goblin now? Because he don't know that. Like, that's still a whole thing to deal with, y'all. That is a big." Big thing to tell someone.
And it's nice that Sam still keeps that like fresh and like kind of plays Not as being like, yeah, well, we need like a favor, but also like we need to go, and like so, at times she's very supportive of an idea, and then other times she's like, yeah,
like first I'm not going down the well. Fast forward, I'm jumping down the well.
Yeah, so they go take a sleep. Bo gets up early because she needs to meet with Dairon. And then we get a really cool thing that I love that Matt has kind of been doing this with the Cobalt Soul. He's made some tweaks. Bo gets up early, asks Not for the glamored armor, puts on an outfit that kind of resembles a Kreen, meets up with Dairon, and they have a little battle. And I love that Matt's kind of been doing this sort of like they fight, and then you learn the new technique. And I really want to incorporate this in like if I run like games and stuff like that too, is a lot of times, like you just level up, and there's no real reason for like some of the things you get. And I really like flavoring, like as you get a thing in the class, figuring out a way to make it come out in like the game. And like Ford got to kind of do that a little bit too. And Matt does a really good job of this with this, some tweaks that he's made. And I closed my book. Dumb of me. So there's some rehashing of the Cobalt Soul, guys. Oh, I opened right to it.
Yeah, of the extracting aspects, basically.
And so we get that the extract aspects in if you use a flurry of blows, it's a lot of words in there. You on a hit you get damage, vulnerability, resistance, damage, immunity. My sneeze broke my camera. So like just on the hit, you automatically get and so he didn't really clarify whether if you spend a key point, you force the con save to get the other things. But I hope that that's still like that part of it, because that's a fun thing to do, and it gives Bo a better reason to pick, because there's some good stuff to pick if you force a con save and they fail. Like armor class. That's a good thing to know. Like, can I be invisible? Like senses, can I be invisible with this thing? And will it see me? Like if they have blind sense or something like that. It like there's modifiers on here too that you could know that gets really metagamey sort
But
of
you have
thing.
to
But
pick and choose, and it's
yeah,
difficult. It's difficult.
yeah,
And then if you do pick the wrong ones and you're like, "Oh, I want to check this and this." You're like, "No info." You're like,
yeah.
"Well, fudge."
And so yeah. Hmm. Yeah. And so this kind of sort of gives you all like the ones vital, whether we know the other ones still exist as a thing that you can maybe pull out with forcing a con save. At least now we have, if you make a hit, um, it goes right out the. You get the ones that Bo has kept picking anyway. You get like the resistances and stuff, which is really not as often as you'd hope it would be with D&D monsters. There's not a lot of vulnerabilities for one. Resistances there's lots of, but like vulnerabilities there's not really. And in this day and age, I keep thinking about like Pokemon. Like I still am in that like, oh, if I use this element, it'll yeah. But
Yeah. Which is kind of only true with barbarians because psychic damage is good against fighting types. And, like,
yeah,
it's the one that cuts through all the Terratotem
I
stuff.
leave that stuff to the professionals. Oh, Matt.
It's fixed.
Okay. And then the other thing that happened is that there was a switch in that the preternatural counter was moved up in the place of Mind of Mercury, and Mind of Mercury was moved down to an 11th level ability. So now at level 6, Bo can, when a creature misses with you with an attack, you can immediately use your reaction to make a melee attack against that creature. So that's a nice thing and that sort of makes sense because Mind of Mercury was nope, that's unfortunate.
That's a puppy.
I wish I had my book open so I could continue on what Mind of Mercury was.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Mind of Mercury was, but I thought it was really interesting that like Dairon wanted Bo to take some specific things away from her time. Like she wanted her, like she was like, listen, be patient, be careful. Like she wanted her to take those specific lessons, and it seemed like Bo tried to take them sort of to heart.
Mm-hmm. So the Mind of Mercury, just really quick, is you can take a number of additional reactions.
That's right.
Each round equal to your intelligence modifier, at the cost of 1 key point per reaction beyond the first. So you get, up to your int modifier of reactions, and every reaction after the first one, you can spend a key point to take an extra reaction. So that's
pretty.
that's
cool.
nice, and that makes more sense at an 11th level than it does a 6th level, because that gets you a little more damage in on things.
Now I will say, and I can't talk about this before, I think getting all 4 of those, like damage immunity, damage resistance, condition immunity, and what's the other one? Did something. Oh, vulnerability. Like getting all 4 of those from just a bonus action flurry of blows seems a little game breaking, but we'll see as she starts using it.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, these sorts of things do best in test. You know what I mean? Like we'll get to see how it goes. It does seem like a lot of stuff. You went from getting like 2 very specific things and you didn't know you were getting anything. Now you're getting like
the 4
most of the most important things. Like it's
4 of the most immediately actionable. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. Good.
No, you're totally you're right. I agree. Like you're absolutely right. It's like the 4 most actionable. So like basically it's just, but they did make fun of the fact that like, well, then the monk has to communicate that. So you're like, like, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot to then.
And that's kind of what I'm excited for.
You just have to be like, fire!
Yeah, I'm excited for how she's going to convey that during combat. Because we kind of see it later. She's like, it seems like they're, resistance to the elements. And I'm like, what are you
I like the way she played that. Like, she felt a bunch of stuff, and like the way she played, like, I'm still kind of figuring it out, guys. I don't really know, like, how this all works.
Yeah.
If it was anything, because Flurry of Blows is 2 hits, right? It could be like if you land 1 hit, you learn what they're resistance to. Maybe if you land both hits, you learn what they're vulnerable to. I don't know.
That's interesting, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So as they leave, Bo whips out a thing for Dairon, and that it's the cipher, which is I thought was really cool because then, like this is how I see it. We know Dairon is heading off more east towards Gordranus. Like if they end up kind of traveling a similar path, information that Dairon gets could be scrawled on a rock face or something like that, being like, "Don't go this way. Like head east or head north, this or south." Like they have a way to communicate unwritten things, um, that no one else really can read because this is Avantika's cipher that Caleb sort of deduced, and they have their own little code now. I thought that was kind of neat, and I like definitely, like Jess said, this interaction with Dairon and Bo being like a very. We don't see Bo open with a lot of things, and seeing these two together is kind of neat.
Well, I liked it because you see how much, like, especially if you compare to, like, think of, like, early game Bo. Think of what we saw with early game Bo and how, like, sort of, like, tough and stubborn she was. Like, think of even the first time we saw her interacting with Dairon, and she was so hard-headed about it and stuff like that. And this time she's, like so excited to work with her mentor and talk to her. And, like, and Bo even has that moment where she sort of calls her out and says, like, what was I supposed to do? You left me. Like, and you see a moment of vulnerability there with Bo, which I really liked. And I thought it was like, well, that shows, Bo doesn't open herself up to having people in her life that she'll let leave again. Cause she feels like, all those people, we know she's not connected to her family at all. They abandoned her. Like, they fully were like, hey, we have another kid. We don't need you. Goodbye. Like, so that moment with Bo is a really good one. And I really like seeing her have this connection, be excited about what she does, be excited about what she could do. And I really like what we saw of Dairon, that Dairon says, I've done difficult things, but if it helps anyone, I'm happy I did it. Like, you know what I mean? And we definitely get to see that the Cobalt Soul is definitely sort of like this, not vigilante, but like sort of separate from a lot of other organizations, sort of like seemingly trying to do good for the sake of doing good, but in very like unusual ways that other people wouldn't normally go about doing them. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there.
Yeah, you get that. I mean, we know the Cobalt Soul on the face is just a place that they log all the information in the world that they could get their hands on. And then we get lines from Dairon like, you've read the books. I don't trust any leaders. No leader has, like they're very just like they're neutral of neutral. Like they're just to make sure that people live and like bad things don't happen. Like it's just a really neat thing because they have all that information and they use the information that they've taken to try and make the world just a good place to be.
Yeah, they're not like a full anarchist society, but they're like, they've got those elements in there, and it's fun to see played against the Empire, which we know is so controlling.
And I thought it was fun that even though Dairon is on this mission to find all this political intrigue, I don't know which ones Dairon uses.
Well, they use she and they interchangeably. It was confirmed.
Okay, cool.
That's their pronouns.
So you can use
Dairon, even though they're still doing like this secret mission, they still want to collect information. So even though it was like just a funny quip about how the weasel could hold its breath for a long time, apparently, they're still like, oh, I will actually write that down and add it to the archives. That is new information.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like just these people having and sharing, keeping information for the sake of it being recorded somewhere.
But I do like what Labrat says. Like, I think Bo has someone who she finally looks up to, like a parent.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, like she didn't have that. So somebody is giving her the time of day, and like it's a good feeling.
Yeah, and as close to her emotions as Dairon is, you could tell that there's a care for that, for Bo being safe and stuff.
Yeah, you don't just tell random people be safe. Like she
Yeah.
stopped
So
and
Bo
made
comes.
Don't
Bo
die.
Exactly right. Don't die. That's
You
not
don't
something
say-
you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't say it to just anyone. You say it to people you want to not die.
Um. So Bo comes back. The group gets up. They head out for that well. They're ready. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I like that Matt sort of noticed, like, you notice that there's still sort of the same busyness going on because like some people are nocturnal, and so I love that, like, a town that never, like, there's no
It's the city
sleep
that never
time.
sleeps.
Yeah. It's literally the city that sleeps because there's denizens that do all their stuff at night. And I imagine, I'd like to think, because I know the darkness is over, like, where the war is happening, and I know it's, like, cloudy all the time over here, so it's probably easier on, but I bet a lot of drow in that city do a lot of more of their stuff, like, during the night, just when it's darker and they feel more comfortable. I just like the idea of, like, I was thinking about this, like, I just wish we could stay here longer to, like, maybe there's, like, even, like, little night festivals and night markets that happen, and I get a little too imaginative.
Maybe they
But
have like
anyway,
photoluminescent plants that they make merch out of at night.
if and ever when a book comes out for this side, I'm just going to run a whole Jorhaus campaign and have little night markets and little night festivals and things like that. Anyway, they head straight for the well. And as they're getting to the well, they pop up, detect good and evil. And Matt says, yeah, you're detecting some right over there.
Yeah.
You hear some, like, weird giggling.
You see some blue wisps.
And then so, like, Nott goes up to the window and peeks in, and there's our lovable bugbear with a really sexually clad bugbear, which I was just like, I just want to know what those, I want more of that. And then, like, another bugbear in, like, this blue ethereal form, and they're sort of doing something. Like, there's a tie to Udaman.
Umadon.
Umadon.
Like
Thank
Uma
you.
Thurman and Don Cheadle.
Okay, won't forget it now. Umadon. And yeah, so then it's like, it's kind of fight time.
And I like Matt's description of magic in this campaign so much more than the last one, because like it's visual magic. Like when succubus and an incubus are doing their thing, I don't think it's a visual thing, but he made it that way because it was more fun.
Yeah, it's more fun. And we get I mean, they don't, they half of the, well, Nott goes for the stealth, but then Ford just plays Yasha kicking a door down.
There's two things. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yasha kicks the front door in.
So then we get
Once
like
again,
this.
keep in mind that this is still an active, awake city. Like, this is still like as Matt described. There are still denizens outside, just walking around doing their business, and they're like, "Well, big lady, front door, boom!" Like.
And so then we get this, and I don't know how you guys felt about. I mean, it was a good fight. It was fun, but there seemed to be a lot of assumptions from each of the players on what they think they knew about the battle. And it was just an interesting, like, Matt kind of had to, like, pull each person's, like, perspectives down a little bit, because some of them were, like, way eager with, like, just the pinging of the evil to just be all like,
Guns
oh, we're
blazing.
in it. I know where these. Yeah, because, like, even Jester pops up her copy and runs into the room, and then tries to, like, do some stuff, even though she technically can't, like, see what's going on. They just know two things are evil in this room, and everyone sort of. I just thought it was, like, an interesting. It's one of those. Sometimes D&D can be so flippin' confusing. And did you guys know that we have a form that you can fill out for questions? If you're confused.
No, I didn't. Tell me more, Dustin.
So at rebrand.ly/askcriticalreroll, I think if you do !form in the chat, you can get that link to our permanent questionnaire. So that is our form. You can ask us questions. We can answer them here. I think we had a question, Matt, who was in the forms. I don't have the form up. Does anyone still have the form up?
Gosh, I don't have it up.
I don't
either.
have it up.
Everything's on fire. Guess who's...
We have 2 questions this week. Scott will answer yours at the end of the episode.
Oh, hold on. Clicking through. Guess what part's getting edited out of the audio version of this?
Responses.
Yeah, we'll just edit this out. Yay.
Oh,
post.
here. Do you... Joel or Mike. Damn it! Do you think Matt mentioning Beacon of Hope being a bit metagamey is warranted? Do you think Tal knew they were incubi and succubi adjacent, or the like, or was Caleb using his smarts? Caleb, I feel like that was supposed to be
Taliesin.
I feel like that was supposed to be
Caduceus. Yeah, because Caduceus used Beacon of Hope, and I think it makes sense. Like, they were talking about, like, for the last 2 games to them, like 1-2 days have gone by, and like what they're talking about is, you know, people having nightmares, people doing evil things unintentionally, people like, and that's either going to be a charisma save if it's like charm based magic, or it's going to be a wisdom save. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be, I feel like it's a good bet. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I feel like there's a lot of times where in game, like, you know everything leading up to the thing, and you're like, okay, what can we do before we kick in this door? What things are we gonna do? And I feel like that's not that. I feel like that's...
Yeah, I don't know. I liked that Matt called out something that he thought was metagaming. If anybody was gonna do it, it probably would be Taliesin, because when they started the game, Matt brought Taliesin in as like the ringer, somebody who knew how to play D&D, or at that time Pathfinder. It was odd to me that he waited kind of until this episode when they woke up from the long rest that Caduceus was like, yeah, you love ghost stories. I read them a lot. I always am intrigued by them. And I get that he's a cleric of the grave and like lived in a graveyard or cemetery. Don't remember which one. But like, I don't know. It felt weird because Taliesin knows a lot of the D&D monsters. He does get some spells wrong. Like, he does use light to cast light on other things when it's a touch spell, so you gotta like physically touch it. But in this case, because I completely didn't think about what Jess was saying, that there were ghosts involved earlier, or like there could be ghost stories with like, you know, things making you have bad dreams.
Well, even just the stories they heard about, like, the town, like, bad
Yeah.
dreams.
But it was
nightmares.
super coincidental that this gives you advantage on saving wisdom saves, and like that's the main thing. Incubus.
Well, I think it brings up that age-old question that, I mean, there are sides to D&D that feel very strongly about one way or the other, and, you know, sometimes metagaming, if it's not like a blatant and breaking the game, it's sometimes it's even a thing you can, like, it's I like it as long as it's not like the completely like blatant, like, trying to get an advantage on like things
Right.
that like
I
pops
think...
you out, like it pops you out. But like, I'm fine.
Yeah, and it's totally, and it 100%
Jess
is one of
Jess
those...
wants in. Jess has an opinion.
Okay, go Jess.
Thank you.
I mean, I like that we can talk about this stuff. So
I just want to point out that everyone looks at a situation from their perspective. So I think that Caduceus, as someone who grew up in a cemetery, who thinks about ghosts and things, is going to be like, oh, nightmares is totally ghosts. Whereas someone who, you know, is used to dealing with something else, I don't know, demonic forces, be like, nightmares is gonna be demons. Like, you automatically take what you're used to and you implement it into a situation. Like, oh, this is definitely this because of my life experiences. And I just think it's not that. Like, I could totally see playing Caduceus, like playing him as like he does a lot of like sweet goofy things. Like, just because he's like, oh, I think this is the right thing to do, and I think that's what he would think was the right thing to do. But like, oh, we're going in, and like anytime you're playing a game, and if you think of like, if you're a group of people who's dealt with like really difficult adventure situations, and like, you know what I mean, every time you go on an adventure, you're trying to take care of your party, do the best things, knowing you're about to go into a thing. You're like, oh, what can I do? I can cast this just in case. I can cast this just in case. And I think it's cool to like check in on that stuff. And I think no one is wrong in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I just personally can imagine it making so much sense for Caduceus because we each see the world from our perspective, and that is how Caduceus sees the world.
Right. And like Caduceus has mentioned before, like, I haven't met a ghost I haven't wanted to punch, or have wanted to punch. And, like, when they were in the sea hag place, he was like clutch, because immediately reacted when he goes. So, like, yeah, I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, like...
And I'm very used to, I'm very used to, like, when they go into a combat, if they know it's going to be a combat, Matt will do, like, is there anything you want to cast to prepare? But, like, he didn't say that this time. I feel like if he did, then, like, Matt wouldn't have had a reason to assume metagaming.
Yeah. Well, I think I always, like, my opinion on it is, like, it's a really, really gray scale, because, like, you have to metagame some stuff to get your character to know some things, or to, you know, it's
unavoidable
a wonderful
if you
thing.
know as much as
Yeah.
you know about D&D.
Well, yeah. But also, like, I mean, in little bits and pieces, sometimes, like, thinking about your, like, yeah, it's just, it's a fine thing, unless you're being a complete, like, you know, horrible person about it. It depends on the table, and everyone has their opinions, and every opinion is fine. We're not going to get into that kind of debate, but that was the question.
From Noah. Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, Noah.
We did get another question in the time that we mentioned
Literally.
the form, so we can save that one for the end because it's a fun one.
Yes.
So I really like it. It's a fun one. We'll do it afterwards. So they have a fight in this room, and it's a very small space, so they do a mix of like, well, I put my spiritual person in there. Well, I like think I'm gonna stand outside and like pew pew from outside. Yeah. Like they do a mix of things
too. Like the incubus and the succubus like hide up into the like ceiling, into the point that even Jester has to have her copy like jump up and tap the foot to inflict wounds across, because they're like up and away. It's a tight quarters, and like dealing with height, it's
a tight quarter and like a very one-sided fight, because as soon as a succubus or incubus want to be like, I'm gonna go ethereal and you can't touch me,
and then they just like they're over. Out, and they got to that point where they just popped into ethereal form and floated out towards the well and down the well. And that's when we get everyone's like, are we doing this? We're doing this. Because I think Knot was the one that just went.
Yeah, like jump in the well with me. Like, let's go.
We have to go in the well. Like, yeah. Like, and then we have.
Whereas the day before he was like, my husband is dying. Right at the well.
I was going to say, we talked about it before, like how Matt is flavoring like the ethereal plane kind of right now. And I don't know if that's part of why these incubi and succubi are here, why all this demonic stuff is happening, that like the veil between the material and the ethereal planes are like so close, and that's why you can still see them when they're in their ethereal form. But it was fun that like Matt didn't kind of reveal that that's what was happening until one of them made an attack that would have landed, but it, you know, phased through the body. And then you've got Bo trying to say something in deep speech, like, no, stop this. So they're like, oh, I didn't understand you, come follow us and have fun.
Yeah.
And they follow, and it's gonna get fun.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. The party like Knot goes down, and the party's like, well, I guess we're doing that, and like everyone goes down. We do have that awesome moment of like Ford stuck like Winnie the Pooh and his butt sticking out, but
well, then like we know that there's an incubus and a succubus down there, but what else is going on down there?
I'm scared. Do incubus and succubus have like lair actions?
No, they're little regular baddies. I think there's something bigger going on down there.
Yeah, there has to be something going on. There's gonna be like
open.
Creepy, scary lair powers is what I'm like afraid of.
And if the incubi and the succubi are out, there's a party.
Yeah, there's a lot of sexy things happening.
So there's a party happening down in this hole, and we'll see what the M9 finds out.
I'm excited. That's fun. Do you want to do our last question?
Sure.
I guess technically it's two now.
Is it? Okay, well then one of the questions just literally says, Joel and Mike, Thanks,
Oh,
Scott.
Or Mike. Joel or Mike.
Or Mike. And I
Joel.
said neither. I said Jonas.
Jonah, but yes.
Jonah.
Jonah, damn it! I'm so.
I had to be explained what the option even meant. So I'm gonna.
And my answer is Joel.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so then we can get on to Kazimov did ask a question literally while we were talking.
Yeah. Does the hibernation reach to Jorhas? Do they really exist in the game world, or are they in their own little parallel reality? I would be excited for some honey heist in Jorhas.
That's what this is. I was so confused. I didn't watch.
Was that taking you a second? Yeah, it's basically the hibernation is the honey heist.
Oh fuck, hibernation! God damn it, Marisha Ray.
Yeah, it's from the honey heist game. The hibernation is what gave the bears their sort of like missions to go on to rescue the honey and stuff like that. And so the question is, does the hibernation have reach all the way to Jorhas? Because we've only seen it back in like Exandria. And is it really in the game world, or are they own little like thing? Yeah, but with Tova. I like to imagine it's in the same world because they did interact with like Vex and like Trinket interacted with Vex. Its Trinket is in there and stuff like that. So I'd want to see that, and I would love to see them and see if their experiences are actually different in Jorhas, where there are a lot more beast people and stuff like that. I feel like that could be interesting.
I've never seen the second honey heist.
Tova is the Coulson of Exandria. I love that. That's
you guys are the best.
Tova was like in canon, and now they've got their own spin-off show with the hibernation.
I think of Tova like Charlie from Charlie's Angels.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
thanks, Angels. Like, giving the missions to go off and stuff like that. By the way, I like that. That was a cute question. Thank you, Kazimov. That was a fun one.
I think
it makes more sense in Tal'Dorei. I mean, it makes sense in Tal'Dorei in that Trinket was there, but there could be there are beasts all over the world. There could be bears and animals all over the world. There could have reach all over the world. Maybe there's slightly different creatures over here, but maybe it's still the hibernation. I don't know.
Maybe it's the dire bear nation.
Yeah, I don't know. I want it to be possible to do more silly fun one shots like that over here too. Let's do it.
Yeah, so next week we get delving into whatever is happening, this abyssal quest that they might actually solve. So, I mean, who knows what's down there, and who knows what trouble Matt has lurking for them.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about this episode you guys wanted to that we didn't? Or
yes. Is Zorth going to resell their Moorbounders?
Oh,
that's what I want to know.
I mean,
I had that question. That's literally the first question I wrote out. It was like, because Zorth told them right when they got the Moorbounders, he was like, listen, I will hold on to them for a few days, but if you don't come back and get them, I am reselling these bad boys because they are hotcakes. They are.
These are hot items in a war.
Yeah, yeah.
And there might be somewhere a drow running around on a Moorbounder with a pink ribbon.
Yeah.
I know it's only been a full day. It hasn't even been a full day.
It's a full it's not a full day yet.
So, I mean, they better not die is all I gotta say.
Well, yeah, like if they go down there and it ends up being like a longer mission, like if they go down into that hole, and it's a whole flippin' tunnel, and they have to go do a thing, they're gone for the next 2 days. Suddenly they don't have any adorable Moorbounders
like,
anymore.
What if they go down there and Caleb, Jester, and Caduceus all eat it, and so they don't have the people to drive them anyway?
Now they can't drive their Moorbounders.
Nobody else got their driver's license.
That was the real important question. Thanks, guys. Bye. I love you guys. Bye.
I mean, should we just... No, I want to say bye things. Like,
yeah, I was just kidding.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all
everyone
for watching. Another episode of Critical Reroll. Sorry for our opening shenanigans. it was something. I was one of your hosts. My name's Matt.
I'm Jess at go_JG on the Twitch and Twitter, and I think your face is cool.
And I have been Dusty at GeoNerd on Twitch and Twitter, and I think your face is hot.
Oh, you might need a cold towelette for that.
Mm.
Just slap it on there.
Alright, everybody, bye!
Bye!
Have
We're
a
super professional. Thanks for
good
being here.
day.
Bye!